The Triple I initiative held their first showcase event this week. It's an idea put together by a bunch of high-profile indie developers, including the teams behind indie hits like Dead Cells, Slay the Spire, Vampire Survivors, and many more. It seems like a reaction to the mainstream showcase model, which is apparently quite competitive and expensive to take part in, so it's cool to see indie developers banding together to reach a larger collective audience. But in my opinion, it was a very conservative selection of games that we got to see, with lots of sequels, expansions, and DLC, and games that seem to be chasing trends rather than setting them, which I don't think is very much in the spirit of why people like indie games in the first place. But with that said, there were some interesting games on show, and in this video I will run through some of them and then share some thoughts about what the Triple I initiative means for indie games. If you do enjoy this video, then please give it a like. You can always subscribe to the channel for more like this, and tell me what you thought about the Triple I initiative in the comments. Let's start with some new game announcements. Slay the Spire 2 was the biggest announcement of the show, and they led with it up top. I'm a huge Slay the Spire fan, so I was instantly on board with this one. We saw some new playable characters, which means new cards and new skill sets. It's quite far off. We got an early access release date for 2025, and this was a good start for the showcase, I think. I'd say the second biggest announcement was probably The Rogue, Prince of Persia. This is a Prince of Persia game by the Dead Cells team, but we just got a 2D Prince of Persia game in The Lost Crown, so my initial reaction was, another one? It started with an animated trailer and then moved on to some gameplay, which is exactly what we'd expect from a Prince of Persia game. There was some 2D platforming, there was some combat, it had a clean art style, and apparently it has a roguelike structure. But I can't help but feel that The Lost Crown may have eaten this one's lunch in terms of making a splash, so I'll be interested to see how it's received when it goes into early access on May 14th. We also got an announcement for Never Alone 2. This is the sequel to the charming 2014 puzzle platformer Never Alone. It's based on an indigenous Alaskan myth, and you play as a young girl called Nuna, who has an Arctic fox for company. I'm not sure who was asking for this sequel exactly, but there's no release date for this one as yet, so keep watching the skies if you're interested. I'm going to power through some of these. We got another new game announcement for Dino Lords, which is an RTS game that joins the exo-primal trend of making things cooler just by adding dinosaurs. There was also a look at Kill Knight, a fast and furious dungeon crawler that has a cool art style and a kind of gothic and glitchy look. But this is a pretty saturated genre, and I didn't really get a sense of what's unique about it, so the jury's out on that one for me. We also got an announcement for Undermine 2, which tripled down on both the sequel trend and the roguelike dungeon crawler trend. This one promises to build on the best aspects of the original, with added multiplayer, new characters, and a new map to explore. There was no release window, but there was plenty of gameplay in the trailer, so it looks pretty far along. I think the freshest new game announcement for me was a game called Arcade GK, which is apparently an abbreviation for Rakugagi. It's a stylish 3D action platformer with graffiti and parkour. We saw the lead character rail grinding through an interesting cyberpunk world. I'm not exactly sure how the gameplay will shake out in this one, whether it's open world or linear or what, but it made a strong first impression, and it's penciled in for a summer release. But it felt like the majority of this showcase was a bunch of updates and new trailers for games that we've seen already. We got another look at Mouse, an FPS with a Steamboat Mickey visual style. It looks very mobile, with the player character vaulting and bouncing around. It's probably not one for me, but the Cuphead style visuals really stood out. We also saw more of Cataclysmo, a tower defense RTS where you actually have to build the towers. It's another hybrid game from the creators of the shopkeeping dungeon crawler Moonlighter, which I think bodes well for this one. We also saw more of Hyperlightbreaker. I'm excited about anything from Heart Machine. I loved Solar Ash and Hyperlight Drifter. This seems like an ambitious leap for them. It's a multiplayer roguelike with the same visual hallmarks of gloom and hemoglobin and gothy futurism. But I have to say, I must have watched hours of trailers, reveals, and documentaries about this game by now. They've shown it off a lot, so it will be a relief when it finally comes into early access this summer. We also got another look at Shadows of Doubt. This is an in-depth first-person investigation game. You play as a detective living in a voxel city. People have addresses, jobs, and routines. It's been in early access for a good while now, and I've heard some very good things from people about the emergent gameplay in this one. I kind of expected a release date, but we didn't get one. It's still penciled for a full release later this year. We also got an update on Vampire Survivors, which is apparently getting a PlayStation release. I had assumed that this game was out on everything by now, but that's great news for single-platform players because this is a really good game. It also looks like it's getting a significant update with some new characters and the introduction of multiplayer. So the Triple I initiative's first showcase had lots of games to look at for sure, but it felt a little bit underwhelming to me ultimately. I think the reason that people like indie games is because they are creative, they're innovative, and they take risks, unlike most of what we see in the AAA space, so I'm not sure if the Triple I initiative is really taking the best from indie games. What we saw here was really the opposite of what makes indie games interesting. There were lots of sequels, lots of DLC, lots of games building on their own success, and new games in crowded genres that have proven audiences. As an event that seems set up to compete with mainstream showcases, it was ironic to me that the Game Awards itself had a more diverse and interesting mix of indie games last year, with games like Thrasher, Big Walk, Usual June, and Pony Island 2 Panda Circus. So I have to say that the Triple I initiative felt more to me like a marketing land grab than a genuine expression of the indie game scene. But I am the outlier here. It seems to have been generally well received online, and of course I do wish all of these developers the best with all of their projects. But that was my take on the Triple I Initiative Showcase. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and you're welcome to share your own thoughts about the Triple I Showcase in the comments. If you would like to support this channel further, there is also a Patreon. Membership includes an invite to the patron-only Discord server, where there's a spirited debate going on about the Triple I Showcase. You can join for as little as $1 a month, and as well as that Discord invite, you get bonus material and behind-the-scenes stuff too. But that's it for this video, so take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you on the next one.